Shwmai, croeso, hello and welcome to the Bluebirds Nest, episode 72 of the club's podcast series. And this week, it's a very unique episode. We are going international, quite literally, as we embark on a new era for the club. The return to the Oggy Bridge Meadow is just days away now. And myself and many others at the club have been looking into our 125-year history. And in doing so, I've come across a town in the United States called Haverford. We've been down a little bit of a rabbit hole on this, looking into it, and here we are. I'm delighted to welcome this week's guest, Mr. Stephen Pierce, coming directly from Haverford over across the Atlantic. So, Stephen, a very warm welcome to you.
Hey, thank you so much. I am just so honored to be on here. I'm honored to be representing my township over here. So.
I love it. I love it. We're recording this evening time in the UK, so it's late morning, I think, with you over there in Pennsylvania. So thank you for joining us. I will also say at this point, thank you to Harry Thomas as well, our club community manager, who's been influential in you featuring with us this week as we look to delve into this connection. And I mean, where to start with all this? It's a unique opportunity here we've got to chat with you, but I found a little bit of information out about Haverford, but you're a historian, so I'm hoping you've got a lot more answers to me. You're, I think, about 3 miles west of Philadelphia in the state, as I said, of Pennsylvania, so northeast of the United States. I'm going to hand over to you here because I'm hoping you're able to tell us a bit about it, if you don't mind, Stephen. I know you're a bit of a wood craftsman, I think, by trade, but also, as I said, a historian. So, yeah, I'm going to hand over to you, if you don't mind. Tell us about these historical roots between Haverford and Haverfordwest.
Absolutely. Again, so grateful to be on here. It is awesome to make international connections. It's great to make interstate connections. So this is even a big thing for us. I am a wood craftsman by trade. Yep, I am a CNC woodworker, actually. So I make signs for businesses. I also make a bunch of arts and crafts stuff, but I am also a historian. I work as a visitor's associate at a historic site, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And as you can see from the opening presentation, this is me dressed up in different attire from different historical sites and different eras. To the very left of your screen, that is me dressed in colonial attire from the Revolutionary War era, showing off a desk from where I work at. The middle picture is me in a Civil War outfit, and to the very right is me actually dressed in a Continental Army uniform, which I'll talk about a little bit as well. But this is my passion, talking about the history of our area, the Delaware Valley region, and Haverford as well. So it's just, again, an honor to really make a connection and talk about what we have so much in common. So the very beginnings, let's talk about them. So we have Pennsylvania. Of course, we have William Penn, the most famous probably person in all of Pennsylvania history, maybe close to Benjamin Franklin as well. But what people don't know is that Pennsylvania is basically two words put together. It's William Penn's last name, and then Sylvania, which is, I guess, a rough Welsh term as in woods, so Penn's Woods. When William Penn's father fought for the British Navy, and when William Penn, his son, became a Quaker, Quakers in Wales were highly persecuted for their religious beliefs. And King Charles, basically, who was King of England at that time, wanted to basically get the Quakers out of England to make it so that they could find a new place and they wouldn't get bullied within England. So he told William Penn and his followers, I have a tract of land for you that I owe from your father who served in our British forces. I'm going to let you guys stay over there and have a free and open society. So William Penn came over to Pennsylvania in 1682, but got the grant for the charter in 1681. And I'll actually talk about where he specifically landed, because you're really going to like the connection there. When William Penn landed, of course, there were people who were originally here. They were known as the Lenni Lenape. They were the first Native Americans who were here for thousands of years. And William Penn learned a lot from the previous settlers that came to the North American continent. He learned from the Puritans up in New England and in Jamestown, where Virginia was settled, that to create a very open and cohesive society, you have to get along with the native peoples. And as a Quaker, they were pacifists as well. So they really didn't want to have war between the natives. So William Penn has been very much, I think, justifiably given a lot of great credit for establishing what he called a peaceable kingdom. And as you can see from the one painting above the title, that is known as it's Penn's Treaty. It's Shakamatsin. Shakamatsin is a spot in Philadelphia where Penn and the Lenape created a peace treaty, and they lived in really good harmony for a long time until Penn's death. And then it was his sons who didn't really get along after were for a while. But we still have a lot of Lenape culture here. We actually have a local tribe here, which is really phenomenal stuff. And we have names of Welsh people, names of Lenape people, names of Germans. So I'll get to that in a bit. But the first thing I also wanted to say is I work at this spot. This is called Hareton House. It was made in 1704. And it was actually established by one of William Penn's friends. His name was Roland Ellis. And Roland Ellis actually was another, again, Welsh Quaker. And Haverford, Lower Merion, Radnor area, they established, there was basically two settlements in Philadelphia. One was Philadelphia, and they basically, Philadelphia was going to be a place as a home for immigrants, a home as a port to do trade with different individuals. And it really became the commercial seat of the entire North American colonies. It was the second biggest city next to London in the Western Hemisphere. It was large. It was doing so many things. And again, it did so well because William Penn was a very open individual. He allowed for people of all different types and backgrounds to come to Philadelphia, and it grew spectacularly. And in the second part, the other settlement in Philadelphia, this Philadelphia region, was a place called the Welsh Barney, or Blarney, I believe it's called. Please excuse me if I have terrible pronunciation of the Welsh in here. And that was basically, it wasn't really Penn's idea, but it was one of his friends named John Roberts. John Roberts basically wanted to create just a home area for just Quakers, a place where they could maintain their language, maintain their kind of settlement, and their ways, I should say, their culture. And Haverford was one of those places, but this place is actually right next to it. It's in Lower Merion, and it's in a spot called Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, which is high hill or big hill.
Yeah.
So again, we have that Welsh connection once again. They still maintain that name to this day. In fact, it was originally called Bryn Mawr. They got rid of it for a while. I think it was called then Marion. And then when the railroads came in around the 19th century, they said, well, what would be a fancy kind of place to make this turn into? Oh, this place used to be called Bryn Mawr. Let's go and bring it back and so it was kind of like a fancy, like turnabout of words in a way. But I love working here. We do tours throughout the entire week, and it's just a wonderful place. And we really talk a lot about the Welsh culture around here, and I'll get to that in a second as well. But getting back to Haverford. So Haverford this is actually an early 19th century land grant map of what Haverford was laid out like in the 1600s. So William Penn basically picked and chose in some ways where different settlers could go at. And the first people who actually settled Haverford was a guy named Lewis Davids. He owned around 3,000 acres of land. So that's a lot of land. And he really laid out one of the first places in Haverford, which was called Lanark. And Lanark is actually named after one of your, I think, local towns in Haverfordwest, funny enough. And back in the day, while this is called Haverford in the 19th century, the way it's translated over from Welsh to English, it's actually called Hartford. So it was originally called Hartford, and then somehow the language kind of changed and it turned into Haverford, I guess. So it's really amazing to see how all that stuff kind of uh, changed for a while. Here's a little bit of, again, like the two different settlements I talked about. So this is Philadelphia today, to your right, and then to your left is Delaware County, where Haverford is today. So Haverford is all the way to the right above. I'm trying to see if you can see it right there. It's in the red. So it's right next to what's known as Montgomery County, but originally it was called Chester County, and then later came to Delaware County. It's so confusing. But yeah, these are, again, Welsh Blarney was kind of like in the left side, and the Blarney sadly kind of collapsed because people, as more immigrants started to come to Pennsylvania, they wanted to move to places that weren't the city. So that while there was still a good amount of Quaker presence, Quaker and Welsh presence, it started to kind of deteriorate after a while. And William Penn landed in Chester, the town of Chester, which is in the green at the very bottom over there. So a couple historic sites that still exist in Haverford. We have the old Haverford Friends meeting, which was made in 1683. Again, extremely old. It's still active to this day. And it's just an amazing historic site, not only because of the architecture that's still in place, the stone, Flemish kind of stone it's called, but also because of the cemetery that's there that has some remarkable people in there. Most prominently, a lot of the Humphreys, who I'll talk about in a bit. The Humphreys were a prominent Haverford family that made a lot of wealth through different means. But Joshua Humphreys, who I'll talk about in a bit, actually built one of the most famous ships in American history. So we have that. We have the Federal School. Federal School doesn't really have too much of a Welsh connection, but this is a place where actually fourth graders in our schools go and get to learn about how schooling was like in the early Republic of America. And it's called the Federal School because that's kind of what's called the Federalist era after the Constitutional Convention. Again, amazing preservation around there. Lawrence Cabin. So Henry Lawrence, another early settler, Quaker himself, built this cabin. It was actually built primarily kind of based off what the first Swedish immigrants came over. So funny enough, the Welsh were not the first Europeans to come to North America. It was the Swedish. That's why when you go to Philadelphia and you see the Philadelphia flag, it actually has the colors of Sweden in it. Funny enough. But they actually intermingled in a lot of ways. But the Swedish colony kind of deteriorated in the 1630s because they didn't have enough food and they didn't get along with the Native Americans. Once again, showing how impressive William Penn's negotiating skills were. But this is what a lot of Welsh Quakers lived in early on because they didn't have the materials. They lived in kind of like log huts. And then next to it is a place called Niter Hall, which was a gunpowder mill made in the 1800s. It was actually the second largest provider of gunpowder in the new America, behind the DuPonts, who were very influential French gunpowder merchants. Another really cool spot. Fifth graders go here to go and learn about gunpowder making, as well as they go to Lawrence Cabin, which are next to each other. And then like I mentioned before, Joshua Humphrey, I should say, he was the father, quote unquote, the father of the U.S. Navy. He built a lot of the major warships of the time period of the late 1790s, early 1800s. His most famous work is known as the USS Constitution, which is called Old Ironsides. It still exists to this day. It's still technically one of the oldest active battleships in United States history, but it got the name Old Ironsides because it was actually fighting in this conflict called the War of 1812 against the British, and the cannonballs allegedly bounced off this ship and it lived to see another day. So the architect of that is from Haverford as well, has Quaker Welsh roots in him. Stuff to do. So we have a lot of great historic sites here, but we also have tons of stuff to do. For the most part, it's actually a very quiet suburban community now. It's really mostly a residential place, but there's still a lot of stuff to do. It's actually becoming a town that is uh, filled with a lot of younger families. So we're really getting to do a lot of really cool stuff. We have the Haverford Music Festival. If you are a small band or you're a band that's just kind of coming up, we have great opportunities for you to go and do a lot of music, which is great. We have the Haverford Township Day in the fall time, so that's actually the one at the very the bottom of the Haverford Music Festival, which the whole entire basically shopping district that we have called Brookline Boulevard has a bunch of festivals and stuff for kids. And if you come to Pennsylvania, you gotta try the funnel cake, which is phenomenal. That's actually from the Pennsylvania Dutch Germans. And then to the top right, that's actually me in my colonial garb with my friend Ned Hector, trying to show these young ladies how to waltz from the 18th century. That is actually from our Haverford History Festival. So we have one that's just about Haverford, and then one about the actual history, which is next to Niter Hall and Lawrence Cabin. That whole lane is actually called Karakong Drive, and the Karakong name is actually named after the Lenni Lenape. So we try to really get these different names together. But it's so funny when you tell people, they're like, wait, is that Welsh? Is that Lenape? So people are trying to keep on figuring out which is which in terms of name. And then at the very bottom, we have our Havertown Irish Festival. I feel like a lot of our Welsh and Lenape kind of a culture in a lot of ways has been, no, I wouldn't say suppressed, but kind of reduced in a lot of ways, because we had a lot of Irish immigration come to Haverford around the 1830s. And you can see a whole lot of people. In fact, there is a story from the 80s, in which a lot of people, Haverford has such a large Irish population, and they party so much during St. Patrick's Day that we are called the unofficial 33rd county of Ireland, which is really saying something. Welsh stuff, more Welsh stuff. So we have it, like I said before, I feel like a lot of the Irish culture takes up more for Haverford, but back over at Harriton and in Philadelphia, we do actually we have a small celebration of St. David's Day. We do a little bit of caroling. These individuals that you see in the picture here are from a carol group. I think they're part of this overall arching group called, was it Erd? Is that right?
Yeah, you're not far off. Good effort, that. Irv.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I guess they're more of like a volunteer group. They'll do a lot of really great stuff in Wales. And the Welsh Society of Philadelphia actually gets a bunch of them to come over, tour all the Welsh sites in the Delaware Valley region. And really, and at Harriton, each year we have this wonderful St. David's Festival in which they do caroling. It is beautiful. I love it so much. And we have daffodils, which are, again, the flower of that event, and Welsh cakes. So really great time. Going to the soccer part of this. Haverford has a soccer club. It's one of the largest soccer clubs in the state of Pennsylvania. And you could see the Haverfordwest connection, because the castle in there is the Haverfordwest Castle.
Wow.
And it is really, I was a part of this club when I was young. It started again in the 1990s, and in the 2000s it really started to grow. And it has actually done so well that they made a connection on November 21st with the Philadelphia Union. So Philadelphia Union associates and coaches go over and actually do a lot of these week camps in the summertime for the Haverford Soccer Club. We've had a bunch of people from the UK come over and do coaching and helping out. And I remember, I think when I was a kid, a part of the one of the teams having a couple of English individuals come over, and he was great. And so that partnership has been absolutely amazing. And to finally finish off this presentation, Subaru Park, which is the home to the Philadelphia Union, that's what we have in the picture right there, is in Chester, Pennsylvania. So it's around 35 minutes away from Haverford. In the very back, you can see That's actually the Commodore Barry Bridge connecting Pennsylvania to New Jersey. It's a really great overview in the background. And then to the left, that picture that I show right there is actually where William Penn landed in Chester. It's the first place. That is his coat of arms. That is in there. It's actually next to the mouth of the Chester River, and it's just really cool how that connection really goes all the way down to the stadium. This Chester is really starting to be developed into a place where both a lot of families can live. It was hit hard for a while by urbanization and by some crime, but the crime's actually going down, and a lot of people are going to see the Philadelphia Union. Sadly, our coach Jim Curtin was just fired from his coaching position. I actually met him at one of the local food stores we have called Costco, and he was a great guy, and I think he did a phenomenal job for a while. I think the Union went to the MLS championship last year, and sadly lost. But he was the coach for around 10 years, and we're still waiting to see, I think, who's going to be the new head coach of the Philadelphia Union. So that's my rant about Haverford and the and the Delaware Valley region. So if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them for you. So
thank you for that, mate.
You're welcome.
I'm so glad you knew all that history, because that's way more than I knew. I've just been listening and thinking of all the connections. It's crazy. The two that have made me chuckle. You've mentioned Humphreys there. We've got our own Yori Humphreys as a player with us. His family are very much immersed in the club in a variety of different ways. So that's a small link. But the one that has really shone through, William Penn. So our first team manager is Tony Pennock, and he's known to many as Pens. So I'm just, again, another sort of connection there. It's fascinating. And some of those names, Bryn Mawr, that's superb. That's sort of more east, southeast Wales, Bryn Mawr. But
yes, yep,
phenomenal to see. Is there any other name, before we come on to sort of football chat, is there any other name? Am I right in saying there's a Narberth nearby?
Correct. Yes, that Narberth is right next to Bryn Mawr. It is all within Lower Merion Township. Again, it's right next to Haverford. Haverford again has a bunch of it has a lot of English and Irish town names now, called like we have like Coopertown, we have Beechwood, Penfield, Brookline, but there are street names that are still very, again, it shows, and this is why I love Pennsylvania, and I I kind of love America in a lot of ways, is that William Penn's vision, again, of a peaceable kingdom, of having all these different people from across the world come here for a better life and a better opportunity. It's shown within not only our town names and our streets, but it really is like a collectively shared experience by everyone, which is a really beautiful thing in my opinion. But yeah, Lower Merion has Narberth. In fact, my uncle lives in Narberth. He lives on Meeting House Lane, right down the street on Meeting House Lane. There is a meeting house that's from, I think, 1682, the same year Penn landed at Chester, which is, again, it's extremely old, but it's still a Quaker meeting house.
It's incredible. You're a fountain of knowledge when it comes to it all. Fantastic. Listen, we've got to talk. You mentioned their Philadelphia Union. They've had a tough season in the MLS. I checked up my league tables. They weren't too bad in the end, but yeah, a tough season in comparison to recent success. The World Cup. The World Cup's coming to the States now in 18 months, 2026. Is there much coverage of that? You know, is the build-up sort of generating already?
Oh my gosh. So I'm glad you asked this question. So I am not a huge soccer fan, but I love to support anything that is related to Philadelphia. And I have been proud of the way the Philadelphia Union has grown. I think they really started in 2010. There was a couple of clubs that were semi-professional, but they weren't MLS until until 2014 with the Union. And they have done extremely well for, I think, a kind of newer, club around here. And I am just, so I really want to go to a game sometime. I've actually have a friend who has season tickets, and he's telling me, you got to go. And I'm like, I want to go. And I was actually an American football guy. I actually was going to go and play football for Villanova University. But I hurt my neck, so I ended up doing track and field for LaSalle University. And that was in North Philadelphia. So I that's how much I love this place. I can't even leave this place. It's just too much, too cool for me. Too just way too much fun. But yeah, no, for the MLS and for 2026 for the World Cup, it's going to coincide with the 250th anniversary of the country. So 1776, of course, America declared its independence from Great Britain. So I think that's why they coincided the World Cup with us. It should be a great time. They cannot have one of the World Cup games in Subaru Park because it's not big enough. So they're going to use the Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, which is where the Eagles play. And that's our American football team. And it should be a really great opportunity. It should be great. But the one thing that I get so frustrated with is that people in especially this area, they love American football so much that they just kind of don't pay attention enough to actual football, soccer, what would we call. And I'm like, give it a shot, give it a chance. I loved watching the MLS championship. I'm really getting into it in a lot of ways. And I hope that by the time the World Cup slowly comes around, there will be more of a what do you call it, kind of a momentum to kind of support them in a lot of ways. It's just been, we have this one radio station that is a sports talk radio station. It's just it's the largest one, and it's just dedicated to the Philadelphia Eagles. And when the Union were getting into like the MLS championship and they were doing really good, there wasn't a peep about it. I'm like, guys, this is like, you don't know how big this is. And like the local news media won't cover it unless they get to the championship. And even then, the sports people, when they go in at that point, it's like Eagles training camp, Phillies game, and that's our baseball team. And then maybe the fourth or fifth story in the sports section is the Union. And I get so frustrated about that. Some people say it's because the Philadelphia Union are in Chester, so they're not technically a Philadelphia team. So it's kind of like the outcast child in some ways. But I hope there's more momentum though, because it would be a darn shame in a lot of ways.
You got obviously Lionel Messi, if not the best ever, one of, in the right top bracket of soccer globally. He's over with the MLS now, so it's putting more eyes on the product of the MLS. Certainly, I've seen a lot more of it recently, and big names keep coming over. So hopefully, like you say, by 2026, it's right at the forefront. Wales have been drawn, from my perspective, a great qualifying opportunity. The draw we've got against other nations, I'm optimistic that we'll be flying over to watch that. And I noticed the Lincoln Financial Field is one of the stadiums that's going to be used. It looks a phenomenal stadium, that, to be fair. It's set to be hosting games there. I'm thinking ahead now. I'm trying not to jump the gun here. It'd be ideal if it was one of Wales's locations. We'll come and pay a visit if we're nearby then.
Oh, please. we would be honored. We would be honored. We would love it. In fact, we have a commissioners meeting. I think every what is called second Wednesday of the month or something like that. You guys got to come, because then we'll honor you at that point. That's the first Haverfordwest people. That is ours.
Well, you'll have half of Wales coming over if that's the case. They'll all be coming down to visit Bryn Mawr and Narberth and everything.
Gosh, yeah, no, 2020. We would love to show you all these different sites. It's really phenomenal, and again, that we still preserve a lot of this stuff. But yeah, no, going back to the Messi point, funny enough, when his Miami team came to Philly to play, that is the one time that the local sports media went insane. They were like, Messi's in town, Messi's in town, and like the stadium was, the Super Park was just packed. there were people with Messi jerseys who were from Philadelphia. Like they didn't even, they were just like, they're just pure Messi fans.
Yeah,
They
that's
were,
yeah,
they were just, it was the top story. There were people jumping up and down, and it was just that I was like, wow, this is, I knew Messi was a huge soccer player, and I know how good he was, but I didn't know how much pull he even had in the United States until that happened. Like completely sold out. I think tickets were like skyrocketed. I'm like, wow, this is box office right here. So
that's the exact word. He is box office. That's the draw, and that's why they've probably paid him the big dollars to come across and be the headline act, I suppose, to raise awareness in the build up for the World Cup. It's it's exciting for soccer.
Yep.
As I'm saying through gritted teeth, because it'll always be football to me.
I think a lot of Americans actually don't mind it being called football anymore. I mean, some of them will, but again, it's just like, come on, you gotta know your roots, you know.
Yeah. We're talking stadium there. It's sort of seamlessly giving me a chance to talk about our own stadium. We're really excited. We've got the reopening of our ground, the Argy Bridge Meadow, which. It's been almost 6 months now since we played a game on there. I think we've had a new surface laid. We've gone from a grass pitch to an artificial pitch, and we're hoping the people of Pembrokeshire will all come down on New Year's Day. We face Haverfordwest Town, which is another coastal town here in Wales. They're coming down. We're hosting those guys. So I'm counting down the hours now until we can open the gates. It's going to be again a festival of sport on the day. There's an almighty day of pre-match entertainment. There's games on the pitch. We got a ukulele band. The Carmarthen Ukuleles are going to be there. Our local radio station, Pure West Radio, going to be there. I think one of the things I'm looking forward to the most, there's some street food vendors coming as well. So I'm partial to trying a couple of plates from those guys as well. So it's going to be a great day. Perhaps a little bit too far for you to travel and come to this one, but are there any plans for you to come over and take a visit here?
If it wasn't in a pinch, I'd be there on the next flight. But I totally would love to visit Wales. In fact, my first ever trip to Europe, I'm hoping, will be maybe next fall, I believe. And I have to first go to Italy, because that's where a lot of my ancestors are. And then I'm gonna work my way up, hit London, but we're not sure if we want to. I really want to see if I can hit Wales at that trip, because that would be phenomenal. I love the culture. People have just told me. I mean, my parents went through there, I think 10 years ago, something like that, and they absolutely loved it. And there's just so much to see, and I just need to get out of this country for a second, because I've only been to Canada, our northern neighbor, but I've never been to Europe yet. And I'm so deep into all this stuff. It's great. So where are you guys actually practicing right now?
So in Carmarthen, who are sort of one of our local rivals, we've been practicing there and playing our fixtures there. And the LHP Stadium, it's called, in Carmarthen, they've been great hosts. We've enjoyed our time there. We've done really well there, fixtures wise. Our results have gone really well.
Excellent.
No place like home, as they say. There's a great community and support from the local community, not just the town of Haverfordwest, but all of Pembrokeshire. We reach out to engage with and try and get them to come along to fixtures. And I mean, they've been traveling about 35-40 minutes to our home games, which it's a big ask. It has been a big ask.
That's some dedication. That's great.
Support the numbers have been great. They've come in their droves and they've enjoyed. But I think as a group of players, as staff, as the whole wider community, we can't wait to get back to the Argy Bridge Meadow now. And like I said, just days away now from the fixture. A bit of a derby, game against Aberystwyth as well, who we've had many tussles with over the years. Things have gone in our way, things have gone in Aber's way. So the Seasiders coming down will make for a great spectacle, I think. And hopefully we'll have a few more followers over in Haverford that'll be keeping an eye out for our results now.
I can't wait to show this to the entire town. Everyone's going to love this. And again, there's a lot of great enthusiasm, especially, I think, really honestly, out of all of the towns and even well, actually, I don't think everything's. We might be called Havertown within Haverford, but we're. I think we're an unincorporated something, but it's something a different kind of. Anyway, I think Haverford in general is probably the most enthusiastic about soccer out of any place in the Delaware Valley region, and I don't exactly know why that is, but I think it's really because we're really all about sports around here, and we're all about opportunities of different sports. I went to the local public school around here. In fact, I'm a third generation Haverford High School graduate. So my grandfather graduated, my father graduated, but ever since even my grandfather went to Haverford in the public school, soccer has been big. I think it's kind of because it's seen as very elegant and very I don't want to call it like upper class or anything, but it's going back to our roots, I guess you could say, which is seen as elegant compared to American football, which is rough and tumble, kind of working class, kind of game. And it's just awesome to see the enthusiasm around here, and people within especially within Haverford who want to participate. The women's clubs are equally as good as the men clubs in a lot of ways. And we have the Haverford School as well. That's a separate private school that's actually split between Lower Merion and Haverford, and they've always had a great soccer program. So again, a lot of enthusiasm around here.
Yeah.
I'm even more excited to see what happens the closer we get to the World Cup. And funny enough, I forgot to ask you, do you guys play what's that one club? I think it's Wrexham AFSC. I'm sure you've been asked this question before because Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElney, I think his name is. Yeah. They own that, and that is getting so much popularity around here.
Yeah, so. It's a funny one because the chairman of Haverfordwest County Football Club is Rob Edwards, and of course, me being Ryan, we're our own little Rob and Ryan connection. People joke about, but no, they're a couple of leagues above us for now. One day, we have actually played them in the past. In Welsh domestic cup football, we've played them, but not for many years now. Yeah, they're a couple of leagues above us, but we've got our own documentary, which I will say on record, we did our documentary before Wrexham. They've got a multi-million-pound deal, so yeah,
I can imagine.
Value for money, I would say ours has got more drama. Value for money, I would say, but yeah, and anyone your end who they're welcome to. It's on YouTube. It's a dramatic roller coaster ride of a documentary that ended up us playing in Europe as it happens. It was some journey, and for us in domestic football in Wales, that was a big achievement. But you mentioned there about the schools. I think as a club, we've got good relationships with our local Haverfordwest High. You mentioned, Haverford High. We've got Haverfordwest High, and I think there's partnerships. I think we can tee up and evolve this relationship. I think going forward, it's
I'm sure they would love that. I'm sure they would love that.
Easy, and your passion for sports in the town as well. We can only echo that. It's the same here. It's sports a massive part of life in the town of Haverfordwest, but also Pembrokeshire as well. So I'm sure there'll be lots of other clubs perhaps reaching out to the equivalent in Haverford and Havertown, etc. So
absolutely,
this has been so unique in our episodes. Tend to talk so much to individuals who've rich in Haverfordwest County Football Club, but this is another level altogether. So look, we really look forward to the day that you do come over. I think you guys on your own or family or whoever you travel with attending a fixture with us, we'll roll out the red carpet and you can be VIP visitors. It'd be great and fantastic to have you over for that. But
and same to you, my friend. I mean, we would be honored to have you. Definitely got to visit all the local spots. And we would definitely roll out the red carpet for you as well.
Yeah. That Irish festival I've got my eye on. That sounds
really I haven't been yet. I am not Irish myself, but I have heard it is a good is a good time.
Yeah.
I've heard
When
that.
Wales
So.
qualify for the World Cup and we come to the Lincoln Field, we'll hit the Irish Festival together. Like
I'm sure it's gonna be it's gonna be really, really crazy in a good
Yeah.
way.
I love it. Mate, thank you so much. I enjoyed the history lesson, and long may the towns be associated in this way. And I look forward to seeing how this collaboration can, like I said, evolve over time. And yeah, thank you again for your time, Stephen. And we'll catch up with you soon.
Ryan, you were fantastic, and Harry, thank you for putting
Yeah.
this together. And I want to shout out Judy Trombetta. She is a local Haverford commissioner. She was the person who actually recommended me to be on the podcast. So Judy, I really appreciate you letting me have this opportunity to represent my my town. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Take care, Stephen. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, Ryan. Really
Yes.
appreciate you.